If this message finds you, you need to hear it at exactly this moment of time. This is my 6th time recording this video. What I'm about to discuss is a very heavy topic, and it also stems from a personal story that happened with me. So please prepare yourself to discuss a topic that is kind of heavy, such as life and death. I'm going to make it throughout this entire video without crying because the message is what matters. So I've never talked about this publicly, but when I was at university, in my friend group, we had a friend, and he was the most sweet person in the world. And long story short, at a university party, he lost his life, and my friends and I were really confused and bewildered, why, and I can't, I'm sorry, this is crazy that I'm crying talking about this. But yeah, and after that, I really went full force into my spiritual journey and learning about the nature of life itself. And I wanted to know the purpose of human life. I wanted to know, what happens after we die, because this was so shocking and so sudden, and none of us expected it. And he was such a beautiful person, and of course everybody is, but we only really realize, who we've lost after we've lost them. And this is definitely something that took me a while to heal from. And studying spirituality and learning about God and God consciousness has really alleviated a lot of pain around this for me, and shed light on the nature of life and death. And I began to really dive full force into reading scripture, and specifically Vedic scripture like the Gita, and the science of the self and the science of self-realization. So in this video, I'm going to be reading to you a little bit. I have the Gita here. Actually, that summer when it happened, I was so affected that I began to meditate and pray seriously. And I began to seriously read scripture, to know and understand the point of human life, and to know and understand what death actually is, And it just didn't make any sense to me, because this person was so lively and so pure and so real and so sweet. And so it didn't make sense to me, And then I started learning about karma, and how each one of us has our own karma, and each one of us has our own time, and each one of us is on an individual path. Some things don't make sense, and the reason is because they're not supposed to make sense to us human beings with our ordinary minds, but they make sense to the higher mind. They make sense to God, who knows past, present, and future, and who knows the individual soul. Everyone is under the mercy of karma. The body that we've been given, the life circumstances we've been given, is all karma. And karma is just action. So based on some previous actions we have, had in previous lives, we've taken in previous lives, we are being rewarded, quote unquote, rewarded in different ways, but everything is karma. That's why some people are born in poor families, other people are born in rich families, some people are sick, some people are healthy, because we're all under the mercy of karma. And actually, there's only one way to transcend karma, and it's to basically surrender your life to the divine. It's a science, because when you give your life over to where it comes from, which is the divine, basically you put your life in the hands of God, right? And so you ask for protection in this way. You surrender completely your life. And so it becomes no longer just based off of your whims and your desires and your karma, right? But now you are operating for God. You are working for God. You are living for God. You are living for the divine, because it's no longer your life, really. It's like God's life. So he has full control, right? Which he always does. But in surrendering your life over to God, you acknowledge that he has full control. So this is the point of human life, is to give our lives once again back over to the divine. And in doing so, we can attain self-realization. In doing so, we can attain the self. We can realize the self, the soul. And each individual soul is a part and parcel of the divine. So in Sanskrit, we call God Paramatma. So the totality, the supreme Atman, the supreme soul. And then we call each individual person the Jiva Atma, so like the individual soul. So this is really well compared to like the ocean, right? And we're just drops of water. We're still part of the ocean, but we're not the entire ocean, right? So where do individuals go after they shed the body? That's something that I really wanted to learn about. And basically, it all depends on your state of consciousness. So whatever state of consciousness you inhabit during your lifetime, you will continue to inhabit that state after you shed the body. When we shed the body, the mind goes through turmoil. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of apprehension, anxiety, and so throughout the Gita, it is prescribed that we fixate our mind upon the divine, upon God, upon Sri Krishna. And in doing so, we actually steady the mind fully, and our consciousness once again becomes aligned with its true nature. In this way, we can go straight back home, back to Godhead, because wherever you fixate your focus upon at the time of death is where you will travel to. This is a phenomenon known as bilocation. The consciousness has the ability to actually travel. That's why when we dream, we are actually traveling. When we're dreaming, we're traveling. It's not that you're physically traveling. Your consciousness is traveling. That's why you're able to experience different things, and you think it's happening to you. In a way, it is, but you wake up and you have consistency in your daily life once again, right? So it's the same thing when you pass this body, when you shed the body. What happens is we actually wake up from this reality, and we wake up in a new reality. Now that new reality will be dependent upon where your consciousness is fixated during the time of your life. So let's say you are someone who lives very materially, and you're just focused on making money and your family and this and that. Well, this is all material life, right? So what happens when we engage our focus and our senses upon material life? We incur, karma. We are not above this reality. We have not stepped yet above this reality and anchored our consciousness and our heart and our breath and our will to the divine, right? We have not surrendered our life to the divine. So that's fine. You'll live a life that is a material life, and you'll make a lot of money, and you'll have success with your family, and you'll have kids, and it's amazing. And then what will happen at the time of death? Well, you'll probably think of your kids, right? You'll probably worry about them, and so in this way, the consciousness becomes trapped, and it stays within the cycle of birth and death, because you are bound here. You understand? You are bound to this material realm. So you incur karma continuously throughout your life. So this karma is accumulating, right? It's like debt, kind of. It's not negative. It's not positive. It's neutral. It's just debt. It's just action that you're doing every day. You're going to work. You're interacting with people. You're not awakened, right, to the fact that you are a soul interacting with other souls, and within the soul is Vishnu, Paramatma. So you're like asleep, right? So you're interacting with people, you're making money, you're happy today, you're sad tomorrow because you get bad news, you're happy the next day because you get, like, you're reactive, you see. And so at the time of death, which we all have to face eventually, this is not news. This is not news. This is actually like the most important transition of anyone's life is death, right? Because it determines your next life. Your focus at the time of death determines where your next life will take place, right? So then at the time of death, you start to worry, you have anxiety because, oh my God, my body is failing me. And like, what about my kids, right? And what about everything I'm leaving behind? Well, then what happens is your consciousness moves to another plane of reality. Actually, it's very well described in the Srimad Bhagavatam that you usually have to face, like, Yamaraj, if you are, it's very complicated. Basically, you are met with higher dimensional beings, and these beings take you to your new life, okay? Just in a nutshell, basically. So, so you are escorted out of the body, okay? And so you are escorted to your new reality, to your new life. Now, for someone who's very evil, for someone who hurts people intentionally during their life and like takes pleasure from it, they will go to one of the, I think it's like 14 realms of hell. That's just like, it's very precise. Karma is very precise, so you'll go exactly where you need to go in order for divine justice to play out. The universe is constantly correcting itself. This is what karma is. So there always has to be balance, you see. So for one who's just like the regular householder person that I described, they'll be escorted out of their body and they'll probably take another birth, probably as a human being, because their focus was on other human beings at the time of death. Do you understand? This is very important, because for one who focuses on the body of an animal at the time of death, like let's say you just die and you're surrounded by your 16 cats and you're like, oh my God, my cats, right? And your anxiety is with your cats. You're going to miss them or whatever, right? So at the time of death, if you fixate upon that, you may take the body of a cat. And we don't want that, right? We really don't, because then you are stuck in an animal body and you have no way to transcend the modes of karma. At least as a human being, you get to pray your way out of here. You get to surrender your life and ask for mercy. And you have an option to never take birth again, within the cycle of birth and death. So to take an animal body is very difficult because you are bound by the laws of karma. The animal world is literally eat or be eaten. Now, again, it's very specific. For the cat who had a human owner, they may take the body of a human being if they're fortunate. I don't think actually it's that accurate, because I think in order to take the body of a human being, you have to be either a cow or like a more empathic, higher. You have to be an animal that is higher in consciousness. It's very technical. It's very complicated. It's very complex, because the universe, God, Krishna, is very complex. Everything is very precise according to one's past karma. So that's why liberation is the ultimate goal of human life. Freedom from the cycle of birth and death is the ultimate goal of human life. And it's not like you just merge into nothingness. No, you actually take a spiritual body. You are given a spiritual body, and you are escorted beautifully towards the realm of Goloka. Goloka is a loka, or a realm, that is the highest realm possible. 1414 on my timer. It's the highest realm possible. So I'll include a map of the universe that we exist in, and all of the higher and lower realms. I'll include a map here, and you can see for yourself where Goloka is. It is not within the material universe whatsoever. Even if you take birth on Swargalok or any of the higher planets where the demigods reside, you are still taking birth within the material universe. And so at some point that good karma has to run out, and that's how demigods are born once again on Earth, on the Earth plane, which is Buloka, which is a middle plane. you know. And then the goal is ultimately for these demigods to really work towards eternal liberation, you know. So they never return to the earth plane, they never go back to Swarga, Loka, or any of the higher realms within the material universe, because then you have to eventually come back to earth again, you see, once your good karma runs out as a demigod, because it will. And actually, earth is the best place to take birth on for liberation, because earth is such a mixed bag. Like, it's like really painful here. Earth is really painful. Really. Human life is very painful for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, Kim Kardashian, or me. Like life on earth is difficult without proper shelter, without taking shelter of the divine. Even then it's difficult, right? So we really want a way out, you know. So to understand the nature of life is to understand the nature and the signs of death, which is very important to understand. Death is not something to be feared. You must prepare for it. And the way to prepare for it is to fixate your consciousness now in this body that you have upon the feet of the divine, upon the feet of Krishna, upon the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. There's no other way. There's no other way. Trust me. And actually, you know, people here are so lost, especially in Kali Yuga. People are so lost. They don't even know what religion is anymore. You know, they don't know anything. No offense. Even I don't know anything, you know. But what I know, I tried to tell you what I know. So Kali Yuga is actually one of the best places to take birth within if your goal is liberation. Because in Kali Yuga, the consciousness is so low, right? The consciousness of human beings is so low that, and Earth is declining, you know. Bhumi Devi, Earth, who's a personality. There's a personality within each planet, by the way. She is being tortured in Kali Yuga. So when one takes birth in Kali Yuga, you know, they have, I think, the easiest of conditions to take liberation within. Kali Yuga is a mess, but you have the easiest. It's like a free pass to become liberated, because the consciousness level is so low that you don't need to perform yagna, you don't need to perform like difficult austerities, or, you know, tapasya, or like just, you know, sacrifice animals in fire, and like, I don't know, whatever they used to do during different yugas. I think that was very that was not done that much, but like, you don't have to stand on one leg and like chant for like thousands of years like they used to do in Satya Yuga and in all these previous yugas. You can just use sound vibration. Sound vibration is the way out in Kali Yuga. So you chant one mantra that frees you from all of your karma. And that mantra is the Maha mantra. Maha means great in Sanskrit. So the great mantra. The mantra of all mantras, basically. It's called the Maha mantra. I'll leave it here for you. And you chant this, all of your karma gets cleared. Over time, of course. And with, you know, strict, you know, injunction, and with a dedication to soul evolution. You know, you really want to live as prescribed by the Vedas. So, I have the Gita open here. I'm going to read Sri Krishna's words from page 80. This is chapter 2, text 11, on the nature of birth and death. And this is exactly what I studied during that period of time in my life. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "While speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead." Wow. Yeah. The body is born and is destined to be vanquished today or tomorrow. Therefore, the body is not as important as the soul. One who knows this is actually learned, and for him there is no cause for lamentation, regardless of the condition of the material body. Then Sri Krishna says, "Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, Arjuna, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be." In the Vedas, in the Katha Upanishad, as well as in the Svatara Upanishad, it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the maintainer of innumerable living entities in terms of their different situations according to individual work and reaction of work. That Supreme Personality of Godhead is also, by his plenary portions, alive in the heart of every living entity. Only saintly persons who can see, within and without, the same Supreme Lord can actually attain to perfect and eternal peace. The same Vedic truth given to Arjuna is given to all persons in the world who pose themselves as very learned, but factually have but a poor fund of knowledge. The Lord says clearly that he himself, Arjuna, and all the kings who are assembled on the battlefield are eternally individual beings, and that the Lord is eternally the maintainer of the individual living entities, both in their conditioned and in their liberated situations. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the supreme individual person, and Arjuna, the Lord's eternal associate, and all the kings assembled there are the individual eternal persons. It is not that they did not exist as individuals in the past, and it is not that they will not remain eternal persons. Their individuality existed in the past, and their individuality will continue in the future without interruption. Therefore, there is no cause for lamentation for anyone. The Mayavadi theory that after liberation, the individual soul, separated by the covering of Maya or illusion, will merge into the impersonal Brahman and lose its individual existence is not supported herein by Lord Krishna, the supreme authority. Nor is the theory that we can only think of individuality in the conditioned state supported herein. Krishna clearly says herein that in the future, also the individuality of the Lord and others, as it is confirmed in the Upanishads, will continue eternally. So that's why there's no reason to lament for anyone living or non-living. This statement of Krishna's is authoritative because Krishna cannot be subject to illusion. If individuality were not a fact, then Krishna would not have stressed it so much, even for the future. The Mayavadi may argue that the individuality spoken of by Krishna is not spiritual but material. Okay, so for some context, Mayavadi people, like Mayavadi believers, Mayavadi individuals, are people that believe in the impersonal Brahman. So these are people that believe that, like, God is the universe, and, like, God is not a person, but God is a person. God is Krishna. So God is not, like, eternal space and time and, like, oneness and, like, no, God is a person who has all that contained within him. You know, and there are beautiful images here that, like, illustrate that so well. Let me see if I can find one of Krishna's impersonal form, or his absolute form rather, when he revealed his, like, insane multi-dimensional form to Arjuna. Is it here? I think so. Maybe not, actually. Here it is. Are you ready for this sauce? This is the universal form of the Lord. Crazy. The Gita is so complex. It's so rich. Wow, I just said that. And there's a phrase here in the purport that says that it is clearly mentioned in many places in the Gita that this spiritual individuality is understood by those who are devotees of the Lord. Those who are envious of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead have no bona fide access to such great literature. The non-devotee's approach to the teachings of the Gita is something like that of a bee licking on a bottle of honey. One cannot have a taste of honey unless one opens the bottle. Similarly, the mysticism of the Bhagavad Gita can be understood only by devotees, and no one else can taste it, as it is stated in the 4th chapter of the book. Nor can the Gita be touched by persons who envy the very existence of the Lord. Therefore, the Mayavadi explanation of the Gita is a most misleading presentation of the whole truth. Lord Chaitanya has forbidden us to read commentations made by the Mayavadis and warns that one who takes such an understanding of the Mayavadi philosophy loses all power to understand the real mystery of the Gita. So basically, once you know, you can't unknow, and don't go back to like generalist impersonalist philosophy or like New Age spirituality or God is the universe, and like don't go back. Like once you know the truth, there's no way you can go back really without losing your knowledge of the Gita and knowledge of truth. Wow, this is also what Krishna says. He says, as the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. And there's imagery of this as well. Since every living entity is an individual soul, each is changing his body every moment, sometimes manifesting himself as a child, sometimes as a youth, and sometimes as an old man. Yet the same spirit soul is there, and does not undergo any change. This individual soul finally changes the body at death, and transmigrates into another body, and since it is sure to have another body into the next birth, either material or spiritual, there was no cause for lamentation by Arjuna on account of death, neither for Bhishma or for Drona, for whom he was so much concerned, like his people. Rather, he should rejoice for their changing bodies from old to new ones, thereby rejuvenating their energy. Wow. Such changes of body account for varieties of enjoyment or suffering according to one's work in life. So Bhishma and Drona, being noble souls, were surely going to have spiritual bodies in the next life, or at least life in heavenly bodies for superior enjoyment of material existence. So in either case, there was no cause for lamentation. Any man who has a perfect knowledge of the constitution of the individual soul, the supersoul, and nature, both material and spiritual, is called a dhira, or a most sober man. Such a man is never deluded by the change of bodies. The Mayavadi theory of oneness of the spirit soul cannot be entertained, on the ground that the spirit soul cannot be cut into pieces as a fragmental portion. Such cutting into different individual souls would make the supreme cleavable or changeable, against the principle of the supreme souls being unchangeable. Oh yeah. As confirmed in the Gita, the fragmental portions of the Supreme exist eternally, sanatana, and are called kshara. That is, they have the tendency to fall down into material nature. These fragmental portions are eternally so, and even after liberation, the individual soul remains the same, fragmental. But once liberated, he lives an eternal life in bliss and knowledge with the personality of Godhead. The theory of reflection can be applied to the supersoul, who is present in each and every individual body and is known as the Paramatma. He is different from the individual living entity. When the sky is reflected in water, the reflections represent both the sun and the moon and the stars also. The stars can be compared to the living entities, and the sun or the moon to the Supreme Lord. The individual fragmental spirit soul is represented by Arjuna, and the Supreme Soul is the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. They are not on the same level, as it will be apparent in the beginning of the 4th chapter. If Arjuna is on the same level with Krishna, and Krishna is not superior to Arjuna, then the relationship of instructor and instructed becomes meaningless. If both of them are deluded by the illusory energy or Maya, then there is no need of one being the instructor and the other instructed. Such instruction will be useless because in the clutches of Maya, no one can be an authoritative instructor. Under the circumstances, it is admitted that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord, superior in position to the living entity Arjuna, who is a forgetful soul deluded by Maya. This, like, Unless someone reads the Gita over and over and over again, this will be very, maybe not easy to understand, It's such wisdom. Krishna then goes on to say, O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress, and their disappearance in due course, are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O scion of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Purport. In the proper discharge of duty, one has to learn to tolerate non-permanent appearances and disappearances of happiness and distress. According to Vedic injunction, one has to take his bath early in the morning, even during the time of Magha, which is January or February. It is very cold at that time, but in spite of that, a man who abides by the religious principles does not hesitate to take his bath. Similarly, a woman does not hesitate to cook in the kitchen in the months of May and June, the hottest part of the summer seasons. One has to execute his duty in spite of climatic inconveniences. Similarly, to fight is the religious principle of the Kshatriyas, and although one has to fight with some friend or relative, one should not deviate from his prescribed duty. One has to follow the prescribed rules and regulations of religious principles in order to rise up to the platform of knowledge, because by knowledge and devotion, only one can liberate himself from the clutches of Maya or illusion. This is important, this one. Listen. Text 16, Chapter 2. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent material body there is no endurance, and of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. Of the non-existent, the material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. Purport. There is no endurance of the changing body. That the body is changing every moment by the actions and reactions of the different cells is admitted by modern medical science, and thus growth and old age are taking place in the body. But the spirit soul exists permanently, remaining the same despite all changes of the body and the mind. That is the difference between matter and spirit. By nature, the body is ever changing and the soul is eternal. The conclusion is established by all classes of seers of the truth, both impersonalists and personalists. In the Vishnu Purana, Chapter 2, Canto 12, Text 38, it is stated that Vishnu and his abodes all have self-illuminated spiritual existence. My Sanskrit's really bad. Jyotismi Vishnur Bhuvanani Vishnu. The words existent and non-existent refer only to spirit and matter. That is the version of all seers of truth. Text 17. I'm skipping around. That which pervades the entire body you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. Purport. This verse more clearly explains the real nature of the soul, which is spread all over the body. Anyone can understand what is spread all over the body. It is consciousness. Everyone is conscious of the pains and pleasures of the body, in part or as a whole. This spreading of consciousness is limited within one's own body. The pains and pleasures of one's body are unknown to another. Therefore, each and every body is the embodiment of an individual soul, and the symptom of the soul's presence is perceived as individual consciousness. This soul is described as 1/10,000th part of the upper portion of the hair point in size. So basically, the soul, which is consciousness, which is spread throughout the entire body, is as small as 1/10,000th part of the upper portion of the hair point in size. The hair point. 1/10,000th part. That's crazy. When the upper point of a hair is divided into one, it's so specific, the Gita is. It's insane. Spiritual science is insane. When the upper point of a hair is divided into 100 parts, And again, each of such parts is further divided into 100 parts. Each such part is a measurement of the dimension of the spirit soul. Similarly, the same version is stated. Oh, my Sanskrit's really bad. I'm not even going to try. There are innumerable particles of spiritual atoms, which are measured as 1/10,000th of the upper portion of the hair. Therefore, the individual particle of spirit soul is a spiritual atom smaller than the material atoms, and such atoms are innumerable. This very small spiritual spark is the basic principle of the material body, and the influence of such a spiritual spark is spread all over the body, as the influence of the active principle of some medicine spreads throughout the body. This current of the spirit soul is felt all over the body as consciousness, and that is the proof of the presence of the soul. Any layman can understand that the material body minus consciousness is a dead body, and this consciousness cannot be revived in the body by any means of material administration. Therefore, consciousness is not due to any amount of material combination, but due to the spirit soul. In the Mukunda Upanishad, Chapter 3, Text 1, Canto 9, the measurement of the atomic spirit soul is further explained. I'm not going to read the Sanskrit part. The soul is atomic in size and can be perceived by perfect intelligence. This atomic soul is floating in the 5 kinds of air: prana, apana, vyana, samana, and udana. Is situated within the heart and spreads its influence all over the body of the embodied living entities. When the soul is purified from the contamination of the 5 kinds of material air, its spiritual influence is exhibited. The Hatha Yoga system is meant for controlling the 5 kinds of air encircling the pure soul by different kinds of sitting postures, not for any material profit, but for liberation of the minute soul from the entanglement of the material atmosphere. So the constitution of the atomic soul is admitted in all Vedic literatures, and it is also actually felt in the practical experience of any sane man. Only the insane man can think of this atomic soul as all-pervading Vishnu Tattva. So yeah, okay. It's like so much. We'll be here forever. But this is the Gita. Get your free copy down below in the description of this video. You can read it for free on database.io. Thank you so much for tuning into this message. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for listening. If you stay till the very end, I will have free bhakti resources down below, including one-on-one coaching with myself if you feel that you would like to have that. Thank you for being here. I love you. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Hare Krishna, and I'll talk to you very soon. Peace.